Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
Thank you for listening to this St. Louis on the Air podcast brought to you by Lindenwood University's Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise, examining market approaches to help solve economic and social issues, hammond.institute.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. Today's fire departments are more than just about fighting fires anymore. There's a whole range of responsibilities and services they provide designed to keep us and firefighters safe. We're talking about that today with two people who know this better than most, St. Louis City Fire Chief Dennis Jenkerson and Public Information Officer Captain Garon Mosby. Gentlemen, nice to see you. Welcome back.
Good afternoon.
It is good to be back, John.
Well, I'll tell you, I'd like to start with what's more or less breaking news these days. Chief, start with you. That's this whole Better Together thing that everybody's talking about. You shake your head. What do you think? I mean, you'd be impacted if this thing ever happens.
Right. We've been involved with some of the discussions for the last couple of years, looking at a different way, a newer way, a better way to maybe provide services to the area. I think most of the fire departments in our area, we've got 42 different departments, whether they're districts or munis, are pretty coordinated. I mean, we do make a concerted effort to look at each other's operating procedures and guidelines and see what we can improve. And we've been doing this for years. All of the fire departments in the area have signed a mutual aid agreement, and also something new, we have an automatic aid agreement where a lot of the cities that are municipalities that say are on our fringe of the city, we don't even have to call for mutual aid. It's automatic. If they happen to be closer to a house fire, they come in and assist us, and vice versa. If we have a call for a fire in a house in Clayton, we automatically get dispatched, whether it's Clayton, Richmond Heights, any of our surrounding border cities. So we've been doing this for a while, so the fire departments understand the need for better coordination.
Are you saying that you don't think there doesn't need to be consolidation of the departments, one big fire department?
I think it's, when you look at the big pie in the sky, and if you had to start over and build a fire service or a fire authority, I think it would be a better option to have one big fire service. We have quite a few departments in the area that are single station, big chief, assistant chief, and 8, 9, 10, 12 firefighters. Is that the ideal way to run a fire service? Probably not. So.
What would happen to you if this thing? Would you be the fire chief for the entire big mega city?
I think they changed some of their strategy, if you will, in regards to this Better Together. They moved into, on initial reading, it looks like they want to make the St. Louis City Fire Department a fire district. So, and I think I've got some concerns there, because you get into some of the funding issues of a big department, and we are a big department. We're the biggest in the region, so I'm not 100% convinced that we've really looked at all of the small things that we do on the fire side in the city of St. Louis. I mean, I've got 30 firehouses in the city. I got 2 at the airport. We've got an EMS headquarters, a fire department headquarters. Just looking at the utility cost of those buildings alone is enough to make your eyes cross.
Yeah. Garon, I assume that you're getting a lot of questions about this these days.
To be honest, not really.
Really?
No. I don't think the fire departments have been as involved. So no. And I'm okay with that.
I'll bet you are, although you always answer the questions that are asked of you very, very well.
Thank you.
The other question I wanted to ask concerned this plane that's been landing in the river. We laugh at it, but it shook up a whole bunch of people. I'm sure, Garon, you're beginning questions on that.
So we did get a number of phone calls. I remember when the call came in, I was on the first floor of headquarters, and the EMS dispatcher actually informed me, and I'm sorry, you said what? We have a plane into the what? And it came out initially that we had a plane into the Stan Musial Bridge. So I ran upstairs and into the chief's office, and he was actually on the phone getting the same call. And in his conversation, we have a crane? Like, no. We have a plane into the bridge. So we responded. We sent our Marine Rescue Task Force and a land-based response. So you've got 45 firefighters moving. I think one of the stations described it as scrambled. And it was a bit of a scramble. It's not every day that you get that report. But eventually we found out that we had an amphibious plane that intentionally landed in the water, and we weren't aware that was going to happen. So just in the response, I got to respond with the chief. So just the conversation in response of the potential for concern. You have a bridge. Obviously, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. A number of people across the bridge, perhaps school buses. If a plane did hit the bridge, what's the structural integrity of the bridge? How big of a plane are we talking? Is this an attack? So just a number of things, was going through our minds as the pre-arrival.
Sure. Chief, this has got to be as troublesome or perhaps more so than a false alarm. I mean, Garon just said everybody's scrambling to deal with a potential catastrophe down there on the riverfront, and there's no problem.
Right. The gentleman who was flying the aircraft said that he had clearance from FAA. Okay, that's all good and well, but we deal with the Coast Guard. There's a lot of commerce that happens up and down on that river every day, from tugboats to barges. We have commercial boats on that river every day. And this becomes an issue with what's this guy doing? Who is he? What's he carrying? Who's he in contact with? And people who don't know this river, I mean, the amount of trees and logs and debris that go up and down the river are an issue, which I don't think he had thought about. The people who are going back and forth to work, home, and traveling on the bridges, they see a plane touch down in the river. Most of them are thinking it crashed. Mm-hmm. So we received multiple texts, multiple calls. Here's the issue. And he was under the assumption that I didn't do anything wrong. Well, we had a good conversation. Mm-hmm. And I compare it to Fair St. Louis. When we have an air show down the river, there's a flight box that's put in place in between the bridges. The planes have to stay inside this flight box, and they can't get this close to the bridges. That's an issue. But the people know there's a flight show. People didn't know what was going on here. So after a few discussions with the gentleman, we came to an understanding that now he's going to conduct all of his operations north of the 270 bridge or south of the JB bridge.
Well, I think he was just promoting the plane, wasn't he? He was just trying to get some attention for this particular type of aircraft.
You're exactly right. I did a little bit of research on the aircraft, and the first thing that popped up when we did it was there was actually a fairly well-known professional athlete who died piloting one of these planes. So, Halliday from the Philadelphia Phillies died in the plane. So that was about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Same plane.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So.
Well, now he's going to be downriver somewhere and doing it, where he won't have as big an audience, but at least he won't be bothering you guys.
Exactly.
And having this conversation and split between you two gentlemen here, it really brings to mind there's so many things that the fire department does that people don't realize. I mean, you have so many different areas of responsibility. Garon, just give us some idea of some of the things people probably don't know about.
Well, you always see on the various television shows the firefighters getting the cat out of the tree. Beyond what we do, I don't think I fully comprehend everything we do, because as new things arise, we're just the outside of the box entity people call when they don't know who to call. Mm-hmm. If it's 3:00 in the morning and I'm not encouraging folks to do this, but senior's thermostat isn't working properly, and she can't call her son. The fire department feels that call, and it's nothing that we would come on a show and talk about ordinarily. But there are so many different circumstances where people, you just don't know who to call. It's not a law enforcement matter. It's in the middle of the night. The fire department often comes out and takes care of whatever it is. And, we partner with Heat Up St. Louis. Just getting off, before we came in, the chief indicated that they raised a new high. I think it was 570. I don't want to misquote that. We'll get the right number. But, partnering with them, that's one of the things this past summer. I remember responding with a company at 3:00 in the morning. It was upper 90 degrees in this senior's home. And for whatever reason, we got the information at 3:00 in the morning, and we dispatched a pumper, and I went and got the air conditioner, met them there, and we happily, and I say happily, it is 3:00 in the morning, but we're a 24-hour operation, and we put the air conditioner in, and she was certainly pleased. So really anything outside of the norm where you just don't know who to call, the fire department, and this is just not just here in St. Louis, it's what the fire service is around the world. We fit in those little gaps where you don't know who to call. And the number, it was $571,000 was raised with the Hardee's Rise and Shine, the 19th annual fundraiser with Heat Up St. Louis. So that's just one of the examples of some of the many things that we do that, beyond putting out fires or, a medical call, a car accident, just the things that you ordinarily associate the fire department with.
One of the things that is there's not a normal association except for people within the department, Chief, and that is your interest in cancer prevention, cancer detection. I mean, that's a big thing for firefighters, isn't it? Why?
Over the past several years, we've been watching some of the cancer, the different diseases that have been affecting the different firefighters across the country. Boston did a big study on it, and we found out over probably the past 10, 15 years that changes in the health and conditions of the fire department have really grown towards a lot of these guys are getting cancers, about 9 to 10 different certain type of cancers, and we've basically tied it to the new products that we see in the homes. And I can honestly say that lung cancers isn't high on the list. Guys are wearing the SCBAs, or our breathing mask, if you will. They're well aware of all the hazards involved with inhaling the smoke. But if you look around your home, you look around this office, everything in here now is man-made. It's all plastics, and it's all formicas, the carpeting, the furniture, the ceiling tiles, all the plastic on the cables. Everything, when it burns, is a carcinogen. And we're seeing that now affect the health of the firefighters. Over the past about 18 months to 2 years, we've lost 5 firefighters in the city of St. Louis to brain cancer, gastrointestinal cancers. And to change that culture and how we handle our clothing, our coats, our helmets, our gloves, it's a big culture change. And we've been working on that for about 2 years right now. And we actually brought every firefighter in and went through a full cancer program. And we said, here's what's causing it. We know what's causing it. We've got to fix it. A dirty firefighter is not the seasoned veteran. We have to eliminate that look, that facade, if you will. So we got to stay clean. So it's a matter of we just passed an initiative with help of a federal grant and also the St. Louis Fire Department Foundation to provide every firefighter with a second set of gear, PPE, and that's about $1,500 a set. So we got about a $600,000 grant, of which the St. Louis Foundation picked up about $60,000 worth. So we're changing the culture. All the fire departments are going through it.
Yeah. Garon, I would think that this one would have sneaked up on you. I mean, all of a sudden you realize, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? All of a sudden we've got a lot of people with cancer.
Right. When you look back on the years, we've lost firefighters through the years, but like the chief said, now so many more products, so many more chemicals are being developed every day, and when these things burn, you just don't know what the byproduct is necessarily. I had the opportunity to speak at I think it was the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and in my opening remarks, I told the audience that 22% of average Americans will come down with some form of cancer. 60% of firefighters with at least 10 years of service will be diagnosed with some form of cancer, and you can hear the collective gasp from the audience. But when you look at the sheer numbers, and now the research, everything's catching up. And like the chief said, we have to make an immediate change. And the one thing I can tell you about the fire service, changing the culture is very challenging. You watch a movie, go back to Backdraft or Ladder 40, Ladder 47, 49, the dirty firefighter coming out of the building. That's what that's the heroic figure that we're after. And the gear, my helmet. It's been a few years since I've been on a truck, but, the cool thing was to have a dirty helmet. Well, not anymore. The clean helmet, we don't want to see your war wounds or your battles on your helmet or your coat. We have to stay clean.
Yeah. The last time we talked, you were on a truck that you got off of just in time to avoid a real serious issue, as I recall.
I got away just in the nick of time.
A wall collapsed.
Yes, sir.
On the truck.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, this is a really interesting aspect of the firefighting business, if you will, talking about this kind of safety issue. What about other safety concerns? I mean, obviously, I think actuarially that the firefighting is the most dangerous job in the country. Is that still the case?
That's a great statement, and I'm going to add something to that. I was listening to a radio program last week, different station.
Wait a minute. I don't know if we can go on.
I know.
Go ahead.
And immediately the hair on the back of my neck rose because one of the individuals on the program says firefighting has become inherently more safe over the past years because of the technological improvements of the fire gear. I couldn't get onto the station quick enough, and I didn't get through. The fire service, firefighting, because of all the man-made materials, is more dangerous than it's ever been. Yes, our gear's better. Yes, our trucks are better. Everything burns 5-6 times as hot. We've got manufactured beams in a building that once the temperatures hit 600 degrees, the glue holding them together melts, and these things collapse. So we got less time in a building. So to make that uneducated statement was totally off base. It's the service of firefighting in this country has become inherently more dangerous with the chemicals, with the way they're making buildings. It's just every day when you hear fire come in on our radios, you listen to the inflection of the voices, the people on the scene, the chiefs, the captains, the firefighters, and you can tell in their voice how bad the situation is. We just had one right before we came over here. And the first captain on the scene, seasoned captain, you could tell we had an issue. So you're listening for certain clues. And the newer buildings are just tremendously dangerous with how they're loaded, the fire load. So the business of firefighting has become more dangerous.
How many responses does the St. Louis Fire Department have in a year, Garon?
Chief, I want to defer to you because we've got the numbers right over there.
Yeah, just for the year 2018, our past calendar year, the St. Louis Fire Department responded to almost 96,000 calls in the city of St. Louis. That averages out to about 270 per day.
My Lord. That's incredible.
And we've been holding those numbers for about the past 10 years.
And maybe you've got these numbers. How many firefighter injuries are there fighting these 96,000 fires?
Well, I can honestly say that some of our injuries, our cost of injuries have gone down because we've engineered our trucks to reflect how we fight fire. We've eliminated the need to climb on fire trucks. We brought all of our hoses down to hip height. So we looked at the ergonomics of fighting fire. We looked at the ergonomics of the injuries over the past 10 years and tried to figure out how do we keep these guys from getting injured. And we could see the effect of it now because we've gotten 2 generations of trucks in the past 10 years, and the guys aren't climbing on their trucks. All of their loading and offloading of hoses and equipment is done on a more natural plane as opposed to reaching high or reaching over. So we provided a reduction just by looking at how a fire truck's made and how our equipment's designed, how our coats fit. Things. So we made a big change with that, trying to reduce all the injuries. We still have injuries, but
you still got to go into a burning building and
you
put
still
out
run
the fire.
in there. Absolutely.
And I'll say this, a huge shout out to the battalion chiefs and the officers and deputies, the leadership, right? Because I go to a good number of these fires, and as you know, over 50% of our fires are in vacant buildings, right? Just because we say it's a vacant building doesn't mean that there's no one inside. So often we have to go inside. But I see such a tremendous job by the chief officers on the scene of making great calls. You know, there was the old saying, we'll risk a lot to save a lot. And initially you have to go in thinking that building's occupied, and they just do a tremendous job every day of keeping firefighters safe. And that definitely reflects on the reduction of injuries.
We've only got a little over a minute left, but I wanted to ask you about the Fire Department Foundation, too. What's going on with it, and how is it working?
Fire Department Foundation, we started, probably about 15 years ago with this. We've changed names. We went from the Life Saving Foundation to the St. Louis Fire Department Foundation, and they provide us with assistance in purchasing tools, equipment, training that we don't get through our regular budget. They helped us with the cancer initiative. Their first push that they ever did was we bought AEDs, automatic external defibrillators, to put on all the fire trucks. We took that a step further, put them in all the public schools, and saved a couple lives the very first year. So we continue to buy the AEDs. We just finished purchasing 20 12-lead defibrillators that we put on all the ambulances. So they help us buy equipment that is very expensive that we don't otherwise get with our capital. So they're a big part of the fire department. Like I said, they help buy the second set of gear that we're in the process of purchasing right now. And we're getting ready to have a fundraiser on April 4th at the Chase Park Plaza to help move that initiative along.
Can people get information on that, Garon, online?
www.stlfdfoundation.com.
We will put the link to that site on our website at stlpublicradio.org. Got to stop it right here, gentlemen. Thanks so much for being with us, Chief Dennis Jenkerson. Great to see you again, and Captain Garon Mosby. Always a pleasure to see you both. Thank you so much. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.